What's going on, guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm gonna teach you step by step WebSockets, and I'm gonna walk you through the first hands-on on WebSockets using the most famous and the most popular and the most demanded framework on the market today, Spring Boot. So we will understand WebSockets, this protocol, how it works, and how to implement it using Spring Boot. And to make the learning fun, so we will implement together a chat application using Spring Boot and WebSockets, and also we will use WebSocket.io on the front end using JavaScript, HTML, and native CSS. So it will be a native implementation of a chat application. Also, for the front end part, you can just convert that and you can use a framework like Angular to build your chat application. But the most important part, I guess, is the backend part, which I will guide you through step by step to implement this one. Before we start, if you're new to my channel, just go ahead, hit the subscribe button and join me on YouTube. Also, you will have all the links down in the description of this video where you can find all the social media that I'm active on, so you can follow me there and get all the updates that you need every day. Just before we start, I want to remind you and invite you to join me on my website where you can find a lot of useful courses. Even you will get updates and you will get notifications about the courses that I'm preparing and working on right now. So stay tuned to that and don't forget to join me there. So I will keep you updating via email. With no further ado, let's get started. First of all, let's start by defining what is a WebSocket. So a WebSocket is a communication protocol which provides full duplex communication channels over a single TCP connection. So it is designed to be implemented in web browsers and web servers, but it can be used by any client or server application. So the WebSocket protocol was standardized by the IETF as RFC 6455 in 2011, and the WebSocket API in WebIDL is being standardized by the W3C. So WebSockets provides a persistent connection between a client and server that both parties can be used to start sending data at any time. So this is a contrast to the typical web response paradigm where the client requests a web page and the server responds. So now let's see what are the advantages of using WebSockets. So WebSockets comes with so many advantages, and first of all, it's a real-time data transfer. So WebSockets are capable of real-time data exchange on a website or application. So traditional HTTP requests have a noticeable lag between request and response, whether WebSockets remove this lag, allowing the real-time functionality. Also, with WebSockets, we have bidirectional, so the data in WebSockets follow in both directions, meaning servers can now push data to the client whenever it's available. This is a big improvement of the traditional HTTP protocol, where communication was typically initiated by the client. Then, it's efficient, and like HTTP protocol, the WebSocket protocol does not require headers to be sent within each message. So this results in less data being transferred, making WebSockets more efficient in real-time application that send frequent small packets such as gaming, stocks updates, or chat applications. And finally, persistent connection. So the connection between the client and the server remains open, providing a persistent connection. Once established, the connection stays open until either the client or the server decides to close it. So this persistent connection significantly reduces the latency in data transfer. So now let's see some use cases for using WebSockets. So now I will show you few examples or few use cases for using WebSockets. First of all, chat applications, and this is what we will be building in this course. So WebSockets are used in real-time chat applications where it's essential to deliver messages between users without a delay. Also, we have real-time gamings. So games that require real-time data transfer utilize WebSockets to transmit data between the server and the client instantly. Also, we can use it to implement collaborative editing. So because WebSockets enable multiple users to edit a document simultaneously and see the changes in real time, which is a key in application like Google Docs, for example. And then we can use WebSockets for live updates. So many sites need to display real-time information such as news update, stock prices, weather updates, etc., etc. So WebSockets makes this possible by allowing the server to push updates to the client as soon as they occur. And finally, one of the use cases is also IoT or Internet of Things. So WebSockets can help IoT devices to send real-time updates to the server, and then the server can push these updates to the end users. But before we end this, remember that while WebSockets provide numerous advantages, they are not always the best solution. For less interactive applications or when data is mostly transferred from the client to the server, traditional HTTP request may be more appropriate. Additionally, because WebSockets maintain a long-lived connection, they can consume more server resources and may not scale as effectively in scenarios with a very large number of simultaneous connections. So you need to be careful when to choose to use WebSockets over HTTP protocol. Now let's talk about the key differences between HTTP and WebSockets protocol. So first of all, we have the first key difference is communication style. So HTTP is a request response protocol, means that the client sends a request to the server and the server sends back a response, and it's unidirectional connection. So the server cannot initiate a request to the client and then the communication directly terminates. But when we talk about WebSockets, on the other hand, it provides a full duplex communication. Once a WebSocket connection is established, it remains open and both the client and server can exchange data in both directions at any time until the connection is closed. The second key difference is connection. So HTTP connections are closed after each request or response pair, while HTTP 1.1 added the ability to keep connections alive for multiple requests or response. It still fundamentally operates on the principle of individual request-response pair. In contrast, a WebSocket connection remains open, providing a persistent connection between the client and the server. And then we have the server push capability. So in HTTP, traditionally the server cannot send data to the client unless it is responding to a request. With WebSockets, the server can push data to the client anytime after the connection is established, which is useful for real-time applications. So these are the key differences between the two protocols. Now let me explain to you how this works. So let's start with HTTP. So with HTTP, we send a request to our server. The server will analyze and will perform this operation, and then it will send back a response. And after that, the connection is terminated unless we perform a new request. From the other hand, when we talk about WebSockets, so first we initiate a request and then we have a handshake communication, and this is I will be explaining in just a few moments, and then we will have a WebSocket communication open between the client and the server. This means that the server can send information to the client and vice versa. So now let's move on and let me explain what is this handshake. In the context of WebSockets, a handshake is the initial process where the client and the server establish a WebSocket connection. So the WebSocket protocol uses the HTTP upgrade system, which allows HTTP protocol to change to some other protocol. This is effectively what happens during the WebSocket handshake. So the client sends a standard HTTP request with specific headers to the server, indicating that it wants to establish a WebSocket connection. So the relevant header is in this request are upgrade socket and connection upgrade, essentially asking the server to upgrade the connection from HTTP to WebSocket. So the request also includes a secure WebSocket key, which is a base 64 encoded randomly generated value that the server has to use to from a response. So if the server supports the WebSocket protocol, it returns a standard HTTP response with a status code of 101, which is switching protocols. This response also includes similar upgrade and connection headers, including that it agrees to switch protocols. Additionally, it responds with a secure WebSocket accept header, which is a hash of the client sec WebSocket key, along with a specific GUID. The client then checks this to validate the connection. After this handshake process, the HTTP connection is upgraded to WebSocket connection over the same underlying TCP/IP connection, and data can then be sent as WebSocket frames in both directions, with significantly less overhead compared to continuous HTTP connection. So in summary, the WebSocket handshake is the process that establishes the full duplex communication between the client and the server, allowing for real-time bidirectional communication. So this is what means handshake. Now let's move on and start implement WebSockets using Spring Boot, and also we'll be using HTML and JavaScript to create our chat application. So for this application, we will be building a message broker or a WebSocket message broker that will play the role of a broker that will receive messages and information from different users, and it will be dispatching the same information to the connected users. And each time a user is disconnected, also we will send the information to the other users that this user or some user was disconnected or left the chat. So generally speaking, this is the application that we will be building. Now follow me and focus on this part, and we will implement it together step by step. So now, first of all, as always, let's start by creating a new Spring Boot project. So go to start.spring.io and then select Maven. So this is the project type I will be using, Java as a language, and 3.0.7 for the Spring Boot version. And then let's fill the metadata. So it will be com.alibu, and here I will say chat as an artifact. So demo project for Spring Boot chat application. And then we will leave the rest as it is. So we'll be using jar packaging and Java 17. And now we will be needing 3 dependencies. So first of all, we will need Spring Web, because we will be building a web application, and then we need WebSocket. So here, make sure that you select the correct one. So WebSocket, build servlet-based WebSocket application with sock.js and Stomp. And finally, we need Lombok to reduce the boilerplate code. And now all we need to do is to click on generate the project, and then open it with our IDE. So for this case, I will be using IntelliJ. And now let's move on to the next step. So I have here my project open and loaded in IntelliJ, and as you can see, it's a simple Spring Boot project as always. So also I want to remind you, if you're new to Spring Boot and if you want to learn a bit more about this project, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and to go and check the videos that I'm publishing, and I already published so many videos about Spring Boot. So now, first of all, we need to configure or to create a WebSocket configuration class in order to configure our WebSocket application. So first of all, I will create a new class. In a package, I will call it config, and then I will call it WebSocket config. So WebSocket config as a class name, and in here let me make it full screen. So this is a configuration class. So first of all, we need, of course, the configuration annotation, and then we need to enable WebSocket. So here we will be using a WebSocket message broker. So we need this annotation, enable WebSocket message broker. So now we need in the second step, we need to implement an interface. So this class should implement WebSocket message broker configurer. So we need to implement this interface. The one comes from org.spring-framework WebSocket config annotation. So here, this interface, as you can see here, it has two default methods. The one which is the first one, which is register stomp endpoint, and the second one, which is configure message broker. So all of them are default. So the one that we need to override is this one, configure message broker, the one that comes with a message broker registry, and the first one that comes with a parameter stomp endpoint registry. So now let's go back here and let's override the method. So as I mentioned, I want to override the first method and the configure message broker. So I will select both of them and click OK. So here we see that we have these two methods right here. I will just remove the first one. I will remove also the code from here. And now let's start by configuring the register stomp endpoints. So here this means that we want to add a new stomp endpoint to our WebSocket configuration. So it will be registry dot add endpoint, and here we need to provide the endpoint. So the endpoint, it will be /ws, which is the path which means WebSocket. Also, if you want to work with secure WebSockets like HTTP and HTTPS, so it will be WSS, and then with sock.js. So this is what we'll be using in here. So now let's move on to the configure message broker. So for configuring the message broker, this is the point where we want to enable the simple broker, or to enable or to add the application destination prefixes. So again, within our registry, I want to set application destination prefixes. So where this should go. So this should go to /app, and then another property is enable simple broker. So enable simple broker, it takes a destination prefixes, and for my case, or for our case here, it will be /topic, and you will see where we will be using this /topic later on, and you will be able to link things together. So now the WebSocket configuration is ready. Now there is a different or another configuration that we need also to create, and let's move on and do it. So now the second configuration class that we want to create is an event listener, and for this event listener, I want to listen on all the session disconnect event. So this means each time the user disconnects from our session, we need to inform the others. So we need to inform all the participants of the chat, or all the users of the chat application, that Mr. X or Y has left the chat. So we need to listen to the session disconnect event. So to do so, let's first go ahead and create a class, and let's call it WebSocket event listener. So WebSocket event listener. Let me make it full screen. So this is gonna be a component, and then I will add the required Rx constructor, and then SLF for J, just for logging, because I want to log few information when a user leaves the chat. Now, first of all, what I want to do, I want to create a method, public void, and I will call it handle WebSocket disconnect listener, and this handle WebSocket disconnect listener, it will take a parameter called session disconnect event. So I will just call it event for now. So here I will just add a to-do to be implemented later on. This one we will implement it later. So this means that we want to inform the users of the chat application that our user or one user has left the chat. So now to make this method an event listener, we need to add the annotation event listener, and it comes from the Spring Framework context.event. So now our method, we have this WebSocket event listener, and we are listening on this event. So this is important. If you want to listen on a different event, you can just create an event listener and pass the required parameter in here. So now let's move on to the implementation of the logic, or the implementation of the broker of our application. So now the next step is, I will close these two classes. Now let's first create a chat controller. So I will create a new class here, and I will create it in a package. I will call it chat, and I will call it chat controller. So this is gonna be a controller. So we can just mark it as a simple controller, since we will have our application totally handled by Spring. So first, what we need to create two methods. The first one is a method to add a user, and the second one is the method to send a message. So the first method, add user, is when a new user connects to our chat application. So we need to add we need to hit that endpoint and inform all the users that we have a new user has joined the chat. Okay, and also we want to implement the method send message, which will dispatch the message that will be sent by any user. Okay, so first of all, let's start with the method send message. So here I will do public, and then I need to create a payload or an object. Let's call it chat message for now, and let's say send message. Okay, so this send message, as you know, when we implement REST APIs, for example, if you want to receive an object, we mark the body, which is, for example, in this case, it will be also a chat message. Let's call it chat message as an object, and this one in classic Spring REST application, we mark it as a request body, because it will hold the information or the body of our request. But when we talk about WebSockets, we talk about payloads. So we need to add a payload annotation to this chat message object. All right. So I will open this one, and now let's move on and create this chat message object. So now I will ask to create a class chat message, and this chat message is it will be just a classic Java class. So it will has a private string content, and the content will represent the message, and also we will have private string sender, so who sends who sent this message. And of course we want to create a private message type. So I will create a new enum, and I will call it type. Okay, so for this message type, let me first create this one. So I'm gonna create enum message type in the same package. So this type will have the following types. So it can be whether chat, or join when the user joins, or leave when the user leaves the chat. So chat if the user sends a message, join when the user joins, a new user joins the chat, and leave when the user leaves the chat. Okay, so now let's go back here and let's add some Lombok annotations. So the first one, it will be, so here we need getter, we need setter, we need all args constructor, and the no args constructor. And finally, we will need the annotation builder. So now we have our object or our model ready to use. We can now go back to the chat controller. So I will close these two classes, and we can go back and finish implementing the send message. So when the user sends a message, first let's add few annotations. And first of all, we have an annotation called message mapping. So this message mapping tells what is the URL that I want to use to invoke this method send message right here. So let's say I want it to be chat.send message. Okay, and then we need another annotation where to send this this message. So we have an annotation called send to. So this send to means to which topic or to which queue we want to send this one. And here this one should go to /topic/public. Okay, and the topic, as I guess you all get it now. So the topic comes from this one. Okay, so now let's go back to our controller. I will put this back as full screen. So now each time we get a message, and since it's a payload, it will be sent automatically to /topic/public. So now all I need to do is simply return my chat message. Okay, so this is the send message method. So we can use it using this endpoint, and then each time we receive a message or we receive a payload, it will be queued to this queue called /topic/public. So now we want to implement a second method. So it will be also public chat message, and this one we'll call it add user. Okay, and this add user, it will take the same thing, a payload of type chat message. Let's call it chat message, and also we need a simple message header accessor. Sorry, it's not a simple, it's just simp message header accessor, and let's call it header accessor. So I will show you why we need this one, and also I will just copy these two annotations right here and put them on top. So here it will be chat.addUser. So in case a new user joins, so this will allow us to establish a connection between the user and the WebSocket. So now all I need to do is header accessor dot get session attributes and then put. So all I need to put is the attribute username, and then it will be the chat message dot sender. Okay, and finally I need to return my chat message. So this line right here, it just add username in WebSocket session. So this is what this line does, and here it's WebSocket session. Okay, so now we are done with the chat controller, or like with our controller. We still have something which is not done yet, which is the event listener, which is this one. So let's move on and implement it. So in this handle WebSocket disconnect listener, I first need to remove this one, and then I will create an object of type stomp header accessor, and I will call it header accessor equals stomp header accessor dot wrap, and I want to wrap the event dot get message. So I want to wrap the message that I will get from this session disconnect event, and then I will create a string username. So username, and this one equals my header accessor dot get session attributes dot get, and then I need to get the username. Okay, so here it's username, but now I need to cast this one to a string because it's an object. So after getting the username, I will make a simple check. So if the username is not null, what I want to do, first I need to log. So it will be log.info, and then user disconnected, for example, just it's an information for us, and user disconnected, let's also display the user, and here it will be username. And then I will create a var chat message equals my object chat message dot builder, and then dot build. So now I will specify the attributes for the chat message. So first I have the type, which is message type, and now we have leave, because when we get the session disconnect event, this means that a user or the user has left the chat. Okay, and then let's set also the sender, which is the user name. Okay, and then what we need to do, we need to inform the others, or like all the users of my chat application, that a specific user has left the chat. So to do that, I need to inject a dependency. So I will create private final simp message sending operations. So it's this interface right here, and I will call it message template, for example. Message template. And now here inside this if statement, so what I will be doing is message template convert and send the payload that I want to send. So here what I want to do is to send to some specific topic or to some specific destination. So I have the destination and then the chat message. So the destination is /topic/public. So this is the topic or the channel or the queue that everyone or every user of my chat application will be listening on. So this is where I need to send my chat message. So chat message will inform all the users that this username has left the chat. All right, so now we have our backend ready. So let's move on and start implementing the front end or the web part for this chat application. All right, now let's go to the main and then resources and then this static folder. And inside this static folder, I will create a new HTML page. So here select HTML file and let's call it index. All right, so this is our index.html. Let's give it a title first. So let's say Spring Boot WebSocket chat application. So Spring Boot WebSocket chat application. All right, so here our HTML page. Now let's add some few things. So first of all, in order to use WebSocket within JavaScript, so we need to import a few things. So we need to import the socket.js JavaScript file, and also we need to import the stomp.js. All right, so I already have it here, so just copy paste it, and I will be using the CDN for that. So here by the end of this body tag, so not outside but inside, but at the end, just you can include these two URLs. So I'm using the CDN.js, Cloudflare, and so on and so forth. So this is the one, and I'm using the version 1.1.4. It might be a recent version now, but this is the version that I'm using. And then we also need to include another script file, but we will come back to that later on. Okay, so here let's add another script, and then we have of course a source, and it will be /js/main.js. So I don't have this main.js file right now, so let's create a file, and then I want to create it inside this main resources/static. And now let's check. So here, as you can see, it automatically created this main.js file. So I have my JS file. Now let me go back to the HTML file again, and now after the title I want to add my CSS file. So after the title, let's also add the link, and then rel, and it will be style sheet, and then href, and I want to use, or like I want to create a css/main.css, for example. Okay, so again we don't have it, so let's create this main file in static. And also, as you can see here, we have this CSS folder getting created. Inside it we have this main.css file. Okay, so now let's move on and start creating our HTML components for this application. So within our application, so let me just rearrange this. So within our application, we will first start by creating a div where the user can type his username and click on the button to join the chat. So I will create a div class, and I will give it an ID. So this one I will call it username-page. So this is the username page, and then inside it I will create another div block. So if you want, you can skip this part, and then you will have the source code available on my GitHub. So otherwise, if you want also to follow me, feel free to follow me. Otherwise, you can just skip it. So for this part right here, I will just copy paste the code, so not to waste a lot of time. So here what we have a div with an ID username, and inside it we have another ID, and here we have type your username to enter the chat room, and we have here a simple form that contains two fields. First of all, it's an input with a placeholder username, and also we have a button where the user click on it to start chatting. Okay, now let's create another block, and this one, it will be the chat page. So the chat page will be composed as follows. So we have a chat container, and first of all we will have a title. So it's Spring Socket Chat Demo by Alibu, and then we have a div called connecting. This is when the user clicks on connect. So we will be displaying this one first until the user is totally connected to our to the WebSocket or to the backend, and then we will have a message area. So as you can see, this is a list. For now it's empty, and it will be automatically or dynamically filled by our JavaScript code. And then we have our form, and in this form we have just an input and a button. So the input is where we can type the message, and the button is the button that we need to click on it in order to send the message. So now you don't need to worry about this CSS, so I have it ready for you. I will just paste it in here, and now let's first have a look on our application. Now I will be running my chat application and enable the annotation processing and see if everything is working fine. So now the application is up and running on port 8080. Okay, so let's go to our browser. And here, when we navigate to localhost 8080, we have this welcome page where we can type the username and click on start chatting. For now, we don't have anything implemented yet on the JavaScript side, so we are not connecting to the WebSocket. It's just a page. And here, if, for example, I go back and remove some styles here or some classes, for example, this hidden class, you will see that we will have both of these div blocks displayed in our web page. So this is how our application will be looking like. So now this is the part where we can type message, send it, and so forth. Okay, so let's go back, let's bring this one, and let's move on to the implementation or to the JavaScript implementation. So now let's implement the JavaScript side. So first of all, let's tell JavaScript to use strict. So this means I want to use strict. I want to everything to be declarative and to mention all the types and so on and so forth. So here I will create a bunch of variables. So first of all, I will create a variable for the username page, the chat page, username forms, message form, the input, the message area, and so on and so forth. So like all the elements that I will be using in order to make my interface a bit dynamic and interactive. So here I have var username page equals, and then I have document. So as you can see, document is referring to the DOM, and then I can do document.query selector. And here for this selector, I can select an object by its ID and what I want to select in this case. So let me show you at least the first time how you can do it, and then I can move on a bit faster. So here I want to select this username page. So since I'm using the ID, so all I need to do is to add this dash and then username page. Okay, so then semicolon. Let's create another variable. Let's call it chat page. The same equals document dot query selector, and then we will use the same thing. So now we want the chat page, so which is this element right here. And now if I type it, so I have my chat page. So this, in the same way, I will be creating the following variables. I also have a variable for the username form, for the message form, the message input, the message area, and also the connecting element. So here for this time, I'm using the CSS class to select that one. And as you can see, so these are the objects. So for example, message form, message area, and so on and so forth. So because I already prepared everything for this application and I know what I will be using to make it work. All right, so now also I will create another variable. I will call it stomp client. So the stomp client will be our WebSocket. So I will initialize it to null. It's stomp client, and I will create another variable. I will call it user name, and I will initialize it also to null. Then I will create another variable. I will call it colors. So this one, it's just to assign some colors to our users, like it's just about styling. So I will just copy paste it from here. And as you can see, it's just a simple or a static list of colors. And then what we'll be using, so first of all, we need a function to connect. Okay, so when the user clicks on connect, we need to perform a connection. Okay, so what we will be using first, so we have the username form and dot add event listener. So the username form, let me remind you, and the username form, if I search for it, so this is the form for the username. So it's the first form where the user needs to type the username to enter the chat room. Okay, so username form dot add event listener. So the event listener that we want to add is submit. So when the user submits the form, and then connect. So for now, we don't have any method called connect, and then we have true. Okay. All right. So now let's create a function connect. So here I can also inject the event, and this function connect, it will allow us to connect a user. Okay. So now to connect a user, I will create a user name. So my username equals document.query selector, and the query selector, I want to select the name. So my object name, and then value, and then trim. So trim just to remove the spaces. And then, so this username, it should refers to this one. So here we already made a typo. So this is our username, and then if I have my username, what I will be doing, so I will be using the username page dot class list dot add hidden. Okay, because I know that I already have a class called hidden, and this class will allow me to hide an element. Okay, so this class hidden right here, if I go to my CSS in here, let me show you. So here, if I search for dot hidden, we see that we have this property display none. So this one will hide an element. Okay, so if I go back to my main.js, also I want to do the same thing, but here for the chat page, and now class list dot remove. So I want to hide one block and remove or display the other one. Okay, and now once everything is hidden and everything is also displayed, I will create a socket or an object socket equals new socket.js. And for the socket.js, I need to pass my WS, or like the WebSocket or the path, it's /WS. And then also I need to initialize my stomp client equals stomp dot over my socket.js, or like my variable called socket. And then I will ask, or I will perform a connection. So here I have my stomp client dot connect. And to connect, I need to pass a bunch of parameters. So I have an empty callback, and then I have onConnect. So I need to create a method called onConnect and another method called onError. Okay. And of course, always I want to do event.prevent_default. So I want to prevent the default behavior of the form. So that's why I needed to inject this event. So as you can see here, we don't have this onConnect and onError methods. So let's go ahead and create them. All right. So first let's start with creating this function, and I want it to be global. Also, I will just move it a bit down after this connect method. So here we have this onConnect. or we can also even call it onConnected. So because it makes more sense. So what we need first, we need to subscribe to the public topic. Okay, so in order to subscribe to the public topic, we have our stomp client dot subscribe, and then we need to pass first of all the topic name, which is /topic/public, and then we need to pass a callback method, and the callback method we will call it on message received, and we will implement it later on. Okay, so I will just create this function. So I will make it global, and also I will move it a bit to the bottom. So I will leave it in here, and we will implement it later on. All right, so now I need to tell the users, or like tell my username to the server. So here, tell username to the server. And in order to do that is just using my stomp client dot send, and I want to send to the /app/chat dot add user. So this is the controller that we created already together, and then I have no body, and also I need to use JSON dot stringify. So I want to stringify an object. So here my object has the sender, which is the username, and it has a type which is join. All right, so now like this, we already sent or informed the server that a new user has joined, and then let's say connecting element and class list dot add, and then let's add the class hidden. All right, so this connecting element is this one right here, is this block right here, and once the user is connected, we need to hide that block. All right, so the onConnected method is ready. Now let's go ahead and implement this onError function. So I will create an onError function, and also I will move it a bit down. So let's put it after the onConnected. So this onError method is a simple one. So we have connecting element dot text content. I will just update the text content for that one, and I will say could not connect to WebSocket, for example. And for example, please refresh this page and try. This page and try. So it's just a simple message to inform the user that we had issues with connecting to our WebSocket server. Also, let's add some styling. So our connecting element dot style dot color, and let's make it red, just to mention or to highlight that we had or we faced an issue with that. Okay, so now we have also another method that we need to implement, which is the onMessage received. Okay, so this one, it's a bit long, so we will implement it later on. But first of all, I want to implement or to add an event listener to our second form, which is the send form. So here for this one, so this message form, I want to add also an event listener. So I will just duplicate this one. So here, instead of connect, I will say send message, and here instead of user form, it will be message form. All right, so we don't have yet this send message. So let's just create it in here. I will just try to organize a bit the code. And here we have our send message. So the send message, we also need to pass the event, and I will do just event.prevent default first. And then I will have a var, which is the message content equals my message input, like the variable we already created in here, the message input dot value dot trim. So first I try to get my my message input, and then if I have, so let me just organize it a bit. So if I have my message content, And of course, I need to check every time that I have my stomp client or the connection was established. So in that case, I will create an object chat message equals, and then it will contain the following information. So the sender is always the username or the connected one, and the content will be the message content dot value. Just the message content, and the type will be chat. All right, so after that, semicolon, of course, and then I have my stomp client dot send. And to send this one, first we need to send it to /app/chat.sendMessage. So this is the endpoint that we created in the backend. We also have no options, and we have our JSON.stringify and our chat message object. And once we send the message, so our message input dot content equals empty. So just to empty again our input field. So now we have we already implemented so many methods. We can even go ahead and try to implement and try to showcase and test that one, but it won't make sense. We will see just few information, but we still need to implement this method on message received. So this on message received, it's a bit long, but I will try to copy paste it and explain it line by line, just to make it faster for you and not wasting a lot of time on typing some code. So I will paste the code in here, and now I will go through it line by line. Here, first of all, we need to add a payload object to our on message received, because this one will be already by default integrated by the stomp client when we subscribe to it. So we already have it by default. So then, first of all, we try to extract the body from the payload. So it's just json.parse payload.body, and then we create a message element. So as you can see here, we have document.createElement li. So this one will be part of this UL list, or of this list right here. And then we check the message type. So if the message type is of type join, so we will have message list.add event message, and then the message content will be the sender joined. Okay, so, or let's say has joined or joined. It's totally fine, but for both of them. Else, if the message type is of type live, or the value equals leave, so this means that the sender of this message left the chat. So we also add like the same style, and we say that the sender has left the chat. Okay. Otherwise, if the message, or if the type is chat, which is the last case, so what we have here, we have message element dot add a class which is chat message. So you can also, as I mentioned before, you can find all the classes in this file right here, because it's too long and I didn't want to go through all the CSS details. So you can find everything in my GitHub repo. Also, don't forget to leave a star and fork the project to have the code for your own. So then we want to create an avatar element. So we create an element of type I, and then we have the avatar text. So we just take the first letter from the sender name. So for example, if the sender is called Ali, so it will be A. And then what we do, we have this get avatar element. We will append a child to this avatar element, and then we want to apply a style which is a background color, and this one is get avatar color with the message.sender. And this method also, I will just copy paste it right now, and this one, it will just return a random element from the color table that we created in the beginning here. Okay, so I will paste this one right here. So I will also go through this get avatar. So we pass a message sender. So we try to create a hash out of this message sender, and then we try to get a random index, and then we just return this the value from the colors table. It's like having a random value from from a specific array. Okay, so then we have this message element dot append child from the avatar element, and then we have the username element we are creating. Here it's just mainly creating some HTML elements or some HTML blocks dynamically. So then we have the username, and we are creating a text node with the username or the message sender, and also we are appending the username text and the username element. Okay, and then we have the text element. We are creating a p element, and we have also the message text. We are setting it to the content that we got from the message or the payload, and then we are appending everything to our HTML elements. We have here finally message area dot append child, and then we are scrolling to the top, to the bottom. Sorry. Because it's the other way around, so that's why we do scroll top and scroll height, so to show always the latest message. So now we have our application ready, everything is ready. So now let's go and run the application and go through the different scenarios, and I will show you what happens each time. All right, now I will start the application. And as you can see here, the application is up and running. I will be cleaning this one, and I will open my browser. So for the browser, I already opened 3 different windows, and each one of them contains the same URL. So now I will say Ali. So as you can see here, we have Ali joined. So here, for example, let's say Boo. And here we see Boo joined, and also the first user was informed that Boo joined. So here, let's say WebSocket, and start chatting. So now we see that the first user received 3 informations about himself, the second user, and the third one. The same for the second one, and so on and so forth. So here, I will say, for example, hello all, and we see that this message was sent from Ali, and all the users, they received the same message. Okay, so hi Ali Boo, and as we can see here, this is the random color that we chose, and this is also the first letter. And now, for example, hi there. And we see that when we send a message, everyone is receiving the message. As we explained before, that the user or our backend will dispatch any information or any message that we will receive to the list of the different users that we have connected to our WebSocket connection. All right, so now, for example, if I duplicate this one, so I'm gonna just copy paste this, and here, let's say test. So we saw that it was connecting, and now we informed everyone that test has joined. So hi and bye. So he sent a message, and now if I just close this tab, we see that we see here that the test left, and everyone was informed about that because we already implemented a session disconnect listener. And we were listening to each one or to every user's session, and by that we were able to detect and see that that user has left the chat. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this chat application, and also if you really like it, drop a message, drop a comment on this video, and if this video reach a really good number of views and comments, the next time I will show you how to deploy this application to AWS. Okay, so thanks again for watching, and see you next time. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the application that we built together, and I hope you find it funny and find it useful. So before we end this video, I want to invite you again to join me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Discord, and of course don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join me on YouTube. So also, I would invite you again to join my website and benefit from the courses that I'm providing there. So thank you so much again, and don't forget to share, comment, and subscribe, and see you next time.